I am Sydonnia Brown. I'm here today to present to you my interpersonal communications project for Human Services 508 with Dr. Mark Myers. Next slide. Throughout my presentation, I will define interpersonal communication, overarching goal, enlarging the conversation, my background, my behavior blend, potential barriers, noise pollution, and my plan of action. Next slide. Interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is the kind of communication that happens when people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. When communication give and receive or talk and listen in ways that emphasize their uniqueness, measurability, responsiveness, reflectiveness, and addressability, then communication between them is interpersonal. Next slide, please. Overarching goal. My overarching goal is to listen effectively. Effectively listening involves not only tuning into others, but tuning into ourselves. According to Burley Allen, it is difficult to understand others when we learn to listen effectively to ourselves. Listening goals. My listening goals is to listen empathetically, listen without judgment, listen without advising, not to be distracted, know that I don't own the problem, and to become a level 1 listener. Next slide, please. Enlarging the conversation. Our work, our relationships, and our very lives succeed or fail one conversation at a time. Enlarging the conversation is understanding communication skills, recognizing weakness and strengths, so you can develop a way to improve those skills to enhance your conversation. Next slide, please. My background. I am an African American female from South Carolina. My parents were military, therefore I traveled around the world. Currently, I am a wife and a mother of 3. Growing up, I live in a world as do as you're told and not as you see. Or I was always criticized for anything that I have done. According to Stewart, family communication often embodies the principle, I care, therefore I criticize. As a teen, I typically said what I felt and didn't listen well. Becoming a Christian, it made me humble as well as more compassionate. Therefore, I watch what I say and how I say things. Next slide, please. My background, positive influences. I have great family values. My family's easily adjusted. I have a very supportive husband. My parents are well educated, and my parents also taught to be strong-willed. My background continue. Next slide. Negative influence. I learned to criticize. I was scared to speak up. I interrupt people often. I was very judgmental, and I always give unwanted advice. Next slide, please. Behavior blend. According to Combinell, the model of human behavior are 4 basic types of temperament known as the DISC personality types. D, active, task-oriented. I, active, people-oriented. S, passive, people-oriented. C, passive, task-oriented. Next slide, please. The Uniquely You assessment identified my behavior blend as this is expected of me, ISC. This is me, CIS. Similar graphs mean that I am the same in public as well as in private. Having similar graphs also could be a strength or a weakness. Similar graphs mean that I am consistent in my motivations and feelings. Next slide, please. Behavior blend for CIS. I'm outgoing and active, gentle, soft, and humble, careful and cautious, good-natured, stable, devoted, flexible, and positive. Next slide, please. Positive behavior blends influences. Gifted with people, I am a great team player, inspiring, supportive, and I get the job done. Next slide, please. Negative behavior blend influences. I overuse analytical skills. I am not demanding. I tend to criticize. I need to be self-motivated, and I turn people off with my opinions. Next slide, please. Potential barriers. Self-disclosing too much, listening without advising, difficult conversation, biased listening, and ritual listening. Next slide, please. Barrier solutions. I will need to know that I don't own the problem. I will value the person. I will listen at a level 1. I will think clearly with understanding, share what's important but not too much, have a positive attitude, and have an open mind whenever I'm in a conversation. Next slide, please. Noise pollution. Internal and external noises are factors that influences us to be distracted from listening effectively. Next slide, please. Noise pollution. Internal noise. Hearing what you want to hear. Biased listening. Fatigue. Physical. Solution. Listen at a level 2 to be sure you are not missing any information. Next slide, please. Noise pollution, external noise, loud noise, room temperature, clock watching, and watching others' body language. Solution is to get into a quiet area. Eliminate noises such as cell phones, loud people, ticking clocks, and stay focused. Next slide, please. Plan of action. My plan of action is to become a level 1 effective listener without advising or trying to overpower the conversation. I will show that I am listening by acknowledging the talker and responding when needed. Next slide, please. Plan of action. I will focus and give full attention to the talker. I will reflect on the conversation. I will give encouragement versus advising. I will listen empathetically. I will pray for guidance and understanding. And I will use the TLC cards to remind me of what's expected of me as a listener. Next slide. In my conclusion, with the skills that I have learned in this communications class, I am able to go and grow in becoming the woman that God has created me to be. To be effective in the kingdom of God, I must first learn how to listen to people as well as the voice of God. By practicing and praying, I will know that my newfound skill will blossom. By listening to others, I will have the right to be heard. I will be kind. I will be the kind of person that allow the Spirit to nurture my environment. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity for this presentation. Have a great day.